Picture this. You are sitting across from someone who completely fascinates you. Maybe it is a romantic interest, a prospective mentor, or the most magnetic person in the room. You are hanging on every word they say. But while your conscious mind is focused on keeping the conversation flowing, something strange is happening beneath your conscious awareness. They cross their legs, and 10 seconds later, without a single command from your conscious mind, you cross yours. They lean back, resting their chin on their right hand, and like a delayed shadow, your arm lifts to mirror the exact same pose. They adopt a specific rhythm of speech, calm, slow, and deliberate, and suddenly, your normally rapid-fire speaking style shifts into a matching, resonant tempo. You are not trying to impersonate them. In fact, if someone pointed it out to you in that exact moment, you might feel a sudden flash of embarrassment. You have been caught red-handed in the act of involuntary human copy-pasting. Why does this happen? Why does your brain quietly hijack your physical autonomy and turn you into a human mirror the moment you feel a surge of attraction, respect, or desire for connection? Welcome to one of the most intriguing phenomena in modern behavioral neuroscience and social psychology, the chameleon effect. It is the unintentional, non-conscious mimicry of the postures, gestures, mannerisms, facial expressions, and vocal patterns of the people around us. But while it happens constantly in subtle ways with total strangers, it explodes in intensity when we are in the presence of someone we desperately want to accept us. This is not a random quirk of personality. It is not a sign of insecurity, nor is it a lack of individual identity. It is an ancient, hardwired survival mechanism, an intricate neurobiological dance, and the fundamental foundation of human empathy, trust, and social bonding. In this deep investigation, we are going to unlock the hidden biological machinery behind non-conscious mimicry, explore the groundbreaking science of why our brains actively clone the people we like, investigate the dangerous dark side of overmirroring, and uncover how you can ethically master this psychological phenomenon to build instant, unbreakable rapport with anyone you meet. To understand why you instinctively clone the body language of someone you like, we have to journey deep into the architecture of the human brain, specifically back to the early 1990s, when a team of Italian neurophysiologists led by Giacomo Rizzolatti made an accidental discovery at the University of Parma that permanently changed our understanding of human interaction. Rizzolatti and his team were studying the premotor cortex of macaque monkeys, attaching microelectrodes to individual neurons responsible for controlling hand and mouth movements. The goal was simple: record which neurons fired when a monkey reached for a piece of food. But then something extraordinary occurred. A researcher walked into the laboratory and reached for a piece of food during a break. The monkey was sitting perfectly still, not moving a single muscle. Yet the telemetry equipment went wild. The exact same neurons in the monkey's brain that fired when the monkey picked up food were firing simply by watching the human pick up food.
The monkey's brain was simulating the action internally, recreating the experience inside its own nervous system, without executing the physical movement. These specialized brain cells were officially named mirror neurons. In humans, the mirror neuron system is infinitely more complex and deeply intertwined with our emotional centers, such as the amygdala and the limbic system. When you watch someone you care about smile, your mirror neurons fire as if your own face were forming that smile. When you see them wince in pain, your brain simulates that exact discomfort. Mirror neurons act as a biological bridge, blurring the boundary between self and other. They allow us to mentally simulate the physical and emotional states of those around us in real time. From an evolutionary perspective, this was not just a fascinating brain function, it was a matter of life and death. Early hominids did not survive in the harsh prehistoric wilderness through sheer brute strength or razor-sharp claws. We survived through hyper-cooperation. In an ancestral tribe, being cast out meant guaranteed death. Social cohesion was the ultimate survival asset. To stay alive, your ancestors needed an instantaneous, nonverbal system to communicate safety, intent, and belonging. When you met a fellow tribe member or approached an unfamiliar group, copying their posture and movements sent a silent, deep-seated neural signal. I am like you. I am not a threat. I share your state of mind. You can trust me. If the chief of the tribe shifted his weight and folded his arms, the lower-ranking members who matched his body language were subconsciously perceived as aligned, cooperative, and safe. Mimicry became the original social glue of the human species, long before complex language ever existed. For decades, social scientists intuitively understood that people tended to match each other, but it wasn't until 1999 that psychologists Tanya Chartrand and John Bargh formally documented and named the Chameleon Effect in a landmark paper published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. Chartrand and Bargh designed a brilliant, highly controlled experiment to test two key questions. Do people automatically mimic complete strangers without realizing it? And does this unconscious mimicry actually cause people to like each other more? In the first part of the study, participants were asked to sit down with a confederate, an actor secretly working for the researchers, to describe a series of photographs. The confederate was instructed to execute specific, subtle physical habits during the conversation. In some sessions, the actor repeatedly rubbed their face. In other sessions, the actor continuously shook their foot. The results were undeniable. When participants interacted with the face rubber, their own rate of face rubbing spiked by over 20%. When they interacted with the foot shaker, their foot shaking increased by 57%. When interviewed afterward, not a single participant was consciously aware that the actor had been performing these movements, nor were they aware that they had been duplicating them. It was a completely automated, covert process executing far beneath conscious thought. But Chartrand and Bargh took the experiment a step further. In the second phase, they flipped the dynamic. They instructed the actors to deliberately, smoothly mirror the body language and posture of half the participants, while remaining entirely neutral and non-reflective with the other half.
After the session, the participants filled out questionnaires rating how much they liked their partner and how smoothly the interaction went. The findings were staggering. The participants whose body language was subtly mirrored rated the actor as significantly more likable, attractive, and persuasive. They also reported feeling that the conversation flowed effortlessly, even though they had no conscious realization that mirroring had taken place. Chartrand and Bargh dubbed this non-conscious mimicry the chameleon effect, the remarkable human ability to continuously change our behavioral coloration to match the social foliage of our environment. Now, here is where the psychological plot thickens. While we subtly mimic strangers, the chameleon effect goes into absolute overdrive when we are interacting with someone we are attracted to, admire, or desperately want approval from. Why does the volume turn up so drastically when high value or desire enters the equation? The answer lies in our subconscious motivational systems. Non-conscious mimicry is not a static reflex. It is an active, dynamic instrument of social navigation, powered by empathy and goal-directed behavior. When you deeply like someone, whether it is a romantic crush, a powerful executive you want as a mentor, or a potential close friend, your brain prioritizes that person above all other sensory inputs in the room. Your attention narrows, your dopamine levels spike, your subconscious mind formulates a high-stakes psychological objective: establish connection, gain acceptance, minimize social distance. Because your brain views connection with this person as a high-reward outcome, it activates what psychologists call the affiliation goal. When the affiliation goal is active, your brain turns up the sensitivity of your mirror neuron network. You begin tracking every micro-movement, vocal inflection, and postural shift of that person with hyper-precision. It is not just physical gestures that you begin cloning, it is an entire spectrum of behavioral cues. First, vocal mimicry and linguistic accommodations. When you are captivated by someone, you subconsciously adjust your speech pitch, volume, speaking rate, and even vocabulary to match theirs. If they use specific slang or metaphors, your brain quietly adopts those terms and weaves them into your next sentence. This is known as communication accommodation theory, pioneered by linguist Howard Gills. Matching vocal cadence lowers psychological friction, making your words sound like home to the listener's ear. Second, respiratory synchrony. In moments of high emotional alignment or deep attraction, two people will literally begin breathing in sync. If the person you desire takes a deep, meditative breath and exhales slowly, your nervous system often matches that respiratory cycle without you ever realizing it. Third, postural and spatial alignment. You match their lean angle, their leg placement, their hand positioning, and the way they hold their coffee cup. If they tilt their head to the left while listening, your head instinctively tilts to match. Fourth, facial expression and emotional contagion. If they give a subtle micro-smirk, your facial muscles execute microscopic contractions that match theirs.
This is why when the person you like is stressed or excited, you instantly feel that exact emotional resonance inside your own body. You are not just observing their emotion, you are embodying it. This high-intensity mirroring is your brain's subconscious way of weaving an invisible web of rapport. You are broadcasting an unmistakable frequency. We are the same. We operate on the same wavelength. And because human beings are evolutionarily conditioned to like people who remind them of themselves, this non-conscious mimicry triggers a massive surge of subconscious comfort and safety in the target person. Interestingly, the strength of the chameleon effect varies drastically from person to person, depending on individual psychological profiles. Research shows that individuals with exceptionally high levels of trait empathy and high emotional intelligence naturally display much stronger mimicry responses than those who score low in empathy. Psychologists measure empathy using scale metrics like perspective taking and empathetic concern. When individuals high in perspective taking interact with others, their brains automatically simulate the other person's reality. Consequently, high empathizers are natural chameleons. They effortlessly glide into any room, absorb the social vibe, match the energy of the crowd, and leave everyone feeling uniquely understood and deeply validated. Conversely, individuals who are socially anxious or deeply self-conscious often experience a glitch in the chameleon effect. When social anxiety takes over, your focus shifts entirely inward. How do I look? What should I say next? Am I acting weird? Because your mental bandwidth is entirely consumed by internal performance anxiety, your brain loses its capacity to accurately track and mirror the outer person. The natural, fluid dance of mimicry breaks down, leading to stiff, awkward, and disjointed interactions. This creates a fascinating psychological paradox. The harder you consciously try to impress someone by worrying about your own performance, the less capable your brain becomes of executing the very subconscious behavior that builds effortless chemistry. If non-conscious mimicry is so powerful at building attraction and trust, you might wonder why we don't just deliberately copy every single thing the person we like does. This brings us to the dangerous dark side of the chameleon effect: forced, mechanical, or clumsy mimicry. In the late 20th century, early popular psychology and primitive manipulation sales courses taught people to explicitly copy the gestures of prospects to manipulate them. Salespeople were told, if the client crosses his arms, cross your arms. If he touches his nose, touch your nose. However, behavioral scientists soon identified a psychological phenomenon known as psychological reactance. Human beings possess a deeply ingrained, hypersensitive anti-manipulation defense system. If a person senses, even for a split second, that you are consciously calculating or manipulating your body language to influence them, a massive alarm bell rings in their primitive brain. When conscious, artificial mimicry is detected, it triggers the uncanny valley of human interaction. Instead of feeling a sense of warmth and familiarity, the person feels an overwhelming wave of creepiness, distrust, and claustrophobia. They feel as though they are standing in front of a sinister puppet master or a fake, disingenuous actor. The psychological bridge is instantly shattered, replaced by an impassable wall of skepticism. The boundary between magnetic rapport and unsettling creepiness lies in two critical factors: intent and delay.
Natural chameleon behavior is driven by genuine interest and deep attention. It occurs naturally with a subtle, fluid delay of 3 to 5 seconds. If someone crosses their legs, a natural chameleon does not instantly snap into that position like a robot. They finish their thought, absorb the moment, and naturally drift into a matching posture a few seconds later. It is an ambient shift, not a mechanical reflection. Furthermore, total verbatim copy-pasting is a fatal mistake. True strategic mirroring focuses on matching rather than direct mirroring. Matching means reflecting the energy, tempo, and emotional state of the person, rather than blindly repeating their exact micro-movements. If someone is hyper-energetic and gesturing broadly, sitting entirely still with a deadpan monotone voice will create intense friction. Matching their high-energy, dynamic tone bridges the gap without copying their exact finger movements. Now that you understand the neuroscience, evolutionary history, and psychological triggers behind the chameleon effect, how can you use this knowledge to elevate your charisma, forge legendary romantic chemistry, build deep friendships, and navigate high-stakes professional environments? Here is the ultimate behavioral playbook for ethically mastering human mimicry.
First, shift your focus from output to input. The single biggest barrier to natural mimicry is internal self-preoccupation. Stop worrying about what clever line you are going to say next or whether you look impressive. Transfer 100% of your sensory focus onto the other person. Observe the tilt of their head, the tempo of their breathing, the cadence of their words, and the underlying emotion beneath their story. When you give someone your undivided, laser-focused attention, your brain's mirror neuron network will naturally take over the wheel. The chameleon effect will execute automatically, fluently, and authentically without you having to consciously force a single muscle. Second, master vocal cadence and tone matching. If you want to build instant rapport, do not focus first on body language, focus on vocal dynamics. Voice matching is the stealthiest and most effective form of subtle mimicry. Pay attention to 3 core vocal variables: speed, volume, and energy level. If you are speaking with someone who speaks slowly, thoughtfully, and softly, bringing intense, rapid-fire, loud energy will instantly trigger their stress response. Slow down your delivery. Match their pause lengths. Match their vocal warmth. When you talk at someone's internal brain frequency, their subconscious mind grants you immediate access to their inner circle. Third, utilize the 3 to 5 second gestural drift. When you are in a romantic setting or an important meeting, and you notice the other person adopting a specific physical stance, leaning forward over the table, resting their chin on their hand, or relaxing back into their seat, allow a natural buffer of 3 to 5 seconds to pass. Then, smoothly and casually adjust your weight or posture to align with theirs. Let the movement feel relaxed and incidental. This subtle synchronization creates a quiet biological harmony between both nervous systems. Fourth, practice emotional mirroring over physical mimicry. The ultimate level of the chameleon effect is emotional resonance. If someone is sharing a story about a frustrating experience at work, do not maintain a polite, blank smile while waiting for them to finish. Let your facial expressions mirror their emotional state. If they express shock, let your eyes widen slightly. If they express disappointment, let your brow furrow in empathy. When a human being sees their internal emotional state accurately reflected back to them in your eyes, they experience one of the rarest and most powerful psychological states known to humanity, feeling truly seen and understood. Fifth, use mirroring as a psychological diagnostic tool. You can also reverse engineer the chameleon effect to read the room and measure where you stand with someone. Want to know if a romantic interest or a business partner is truly feeling connected to you? Introduce a subtle, deliberate movement. Shift your posture slightly. Pick up your glass to take a sip of water, or cross your legs. Wait 10 to 15 seconds. If they unconsciously follow your lead and match your shift, you have achieved dynamic psychological synchronization. They are locked into your frequency. If they remain entirely static or turn away, rapport has not yet been established, signaling that you need to slow down, listen more deeply, and build genuine resonance. At first glance, the concept of being a chameleon might sound like you are hiding who you truly are, wearing a mask, or compromising your individuality just to fit in. But modern behavioral science shows us that the exact opposite is true. The chameleon effect is not about losing yourself. It is about extending your capacity for empathy. It is the physical manifestation of human connection. It is your neurobiology putting aside the ego's demands for a moment to say to another human being, "I hear you. I see you. I am stepping into your world." When you catch yourself copying the speech pattern, the laugh, or the physical posture of someone you like, do not feel embarrassed or self-conscious. Celebrate it. It is your brain doing what millions of years of hominid evolution designed it to do best, building a bridge across the vast gulf between two isolated minds. We live in a world that is increasingly distracted, disconnected, and isolated behind digital screens. In an era dominated by superficial interactions, the ability to offer someone deep, empathetic, synchronous attention is nothing short of a modern superpower. The next time you sit down with someone who captivates your heart or mind, stop overthinking your performance. Take a breath, lean in, align your rhythm with theirs, and let the natural power of the chameleon effect weave its silent magic. Because at the end of the day, charisma is not about convincing people to like you. It is about making them feel deeply understood, safe, and connected in your presence.